Hello and welcome back to my channel. It's Tina. And today we are going to go through the 23 horror novels I've read so far this year in 2025. And I'm going to give you my yes, no, maybe opinion on whether or not you should read them. Now, this is my recommendation about whether or not I think you should read them, not necessarily my enjoyment of it, if that makes sense. Because sometimes I like books that I know won't be widely enjoyed. And then there's sometimes books that I don't necessarily recommend that I think you might like if. So we will go ahead and get into the list here. Over the summer, I did a video like this with thrillers that I had read so far this year with a yes, no, or maybe. You all seem to really enjoy that video, so I will link it down below. I will also link my video about horror books from last year where I really did a deep dive into the genre and shared some of my top recommendations. So I'll link both of those below. Don't forget to like this video and leave me a comment and subscribe to my channel if you've not yet already. I'm trying to get to 10,000 subscribers, but let's get into the list. The first horror book that I read this year is Diavola by Jennifer Thorne. And unfortunately, this is a no from me. I really did not like this book. This one's about a family outcast who goes on a vacation with her family to a remote villa in Tuscany in Italy. And these folks are toxic. They fight with each other the entire book. And that was my biggest issue with it because there are also literal hauntings in the castle. And I liked the vibes of the castle. I liked that it was a little bit gothic, but you feel like there's real ghosts here and they're still having these petty squabbles with each other. I just could not get on board with it, so this one I don't recommend. White Smoke by Tiffany D. Jackson. Yes, I liked this one very much. It is YA horror. This one's about a family that moves from California to somewhere in the Midwest for reasons, and you find out what the reasons are in this book, and they move into this picture-perfect home on Maple Street, and when they get there, it seems that the community is definitely off. Your main character has what I would consider OCD. She has obsessive thoughts specifically about bugs. It's like giving me chills right now to think about the writing in this one because I was grossed out very often while reading this. This one explores the idea of running from ghosts, both metaphorically and literally, and I do recommend this one. Unfortunately, Our Winter Monster by Dennis Mahoney is also a no from me. This one I thought was going to be great for winter, and it is a very wintry story, but this one is about a couple that are taking this road trip to a cabin in the middle of a blizzard, and while they're there, they encounter whiteout conditions and essentially have to leave the car for reasons, and while they're searching for each other, they uncover monsters. I liked elements of this one. I liked that you are getting potentially a monster. You're not sure whether or not it's a real monster or if it's just something that's going on with their minds. Are they losing their sense of reality? There's also some decent side characters in this one, but overall I was confused as to what all was going on. Maybe read this one if you want a winter horror story and you're okay with more ambiguous elements. I like my plot rather spelled out, so maybe you would like this one more than I did if you don't care about that. How to Cook and Eat the Rich by Sunyai Dean is a maybe. This has a fantastic plot. It was just a short story and I really wanted more. I think it's a great short story. So if you like that format, you could read this one and enjoy it. And it's about this man essentially who is telling the story about how he was able to partake in this very exclusive subscription-based eating club for those who wish to dine on human flesh. Yes, this one is satirical. It was a little bit funny, very tongue-in-cheek, also pretty gross. Lone Women by Victor Laval is a maybe from me. It is historical horror. And again, it's got a really good opening. It's about Adelaide, who in the beginning, there is a massive fire in her family home. She's fleeing the fire with a trunk in hand. Throughout this book, this trunk becomes very important and you find out what is in it and what she is fleeing with. She is heading to Montana where she becomes a homesteader. And I liked that story. I think if I wasn't expecting this to be horror and it was more just sort of historical fiction, I think I could have enjoyed this even more. For me, it never really leaned into that horror element. So I think it might have been just a little tame for me. Maybe if you like historical fiction, you might like this one a lot because I think the author did a really good job exploring what it's like to be a member of a community that doesn't want you there. I also really liked Adelaide as a main character. I thought she was pretty badass. And I liked learning about what it was like to be a woman homesteading during that time. But still, for horror readers, this is a maybe. The Lamb by Lucy Rose. I liked this book a lot. I really, really did. I'm still going to call it a maybe because this will not be for everybody. This is a twisted gothic story about a mother and daughter who live in a cabin in the woods, and they live pretty far out. And every once in a while, they encounter people that the mom calls strays, and she decides to give them a very warm welcome. most likely the last welcome that they'll ever see, until one day someone shows up and she cannot give them the same treatment. I will leave it at that. I thought the writing with this one was pretty visceral. It was very picturesque. It was very descriptive. And I feel like I could see the cabin and understand what they were talking about. The little girl in this one, or the young woman in this one, is definitely someone you are rooting for. She's very naive, and I'm just wishing that she could find her way. And whether or not she does, you will find out at the end of this story. I really like this one, and I think it's a great debut. Still, I don't think it's for everyone, so I'm going to call it a maybe. This Thing Between Us by Gus Moreno is a yes. I highly recommend this one. It is grief horror, and it's about this man named Thiago who is going through it. He is grieving the loss of his wife, and you find out that before his wife passed away in this tragic accident, they were having these weird interactions with the technology in their home. They started getting packages, and he believes that the two things are connected. It does have a shift in the middle, so he goes from living in Chicago and he ends up moving to some place in Colorado. It's pretty remote, to try and really get over it. He has encounters with her family and some other folks. I highly recommend this one. I will say though, content warning, there is an animal. He does die in this. So just know that. Gothic Town by Emily Carpenter is a no. I really disliked this book. This one is supposedly a Gothic suspense novel. I just thought it was barely horror. You have a restaurateur who moves her family from somewhere up north to this town in the south who is offering these amazing homes for something like $1. And it's post-COVID, so she decides to go there and start anew. At first, things are great. And then, of course, the town is very insular and things get unsettling for her. And they discover these dark secrets within the town, and ultimately things blow up in everybody's face. I liked some of the elements of this. I just thought the main character was a moron, frankly. I really didn't like the main character, and so for that reason, I don't recommend this one. It wasn't my favorite. Bat Eater and Other Names for Corazang, absolutely yes. This is one of my favorite books, I think, of the year. This one is about a crime scene cleaner who is haunted by her sister's murder during the early days of the COVID-19 pandemic. And as she cleans up these various crime scenes, she starts to notice a pattern. She notices that they are all Asian women being murdered, and she begins to wonder if she might be next. I love what the author did with this one. I think she uncovered the very real world violence against Asian Americans that is happening, as well as a little bit of supernatural horror and Chinese lore mixed in. I think this one was absolutely fantastic. Staircase in the Woods by Chuck Wendig is a maybe from me. I like Chuck Wendig. His writing is often what I describe as weird. It's just weird. It goes places that you're not expecting. It's almost cosmic horror in that sense. This one is about 5 high school friends who find a mysterious staircase in the woods, and one friend goes up and vanishes. And now it's 20 years later, and they see the staircase again, and they decide to investigate to see if they can locate their friend. This book confronts trauma a lot. Again, it's a little bit cosmic. It gets very weird. I liked it. I didn't love it. I think the middle dragged a bit for me. It's also a little bit long. It's really only 380 pages, but it felt like it. So for that reason, this one's a maybe. I much prefer his book, Wanderers. That's one of my all-time faves. Another horror novel that will be among my favorite for the year is When the Wolf Comes Home by Nat Cassidy. This one is about Jess. She is a struggling actress, and one day she's in her apartment building. Things are not going great for her, and she sees this little boy, and he's covered in blood. He's hiding in the bushes, and she figures out that he's hiding from his dad, so she decides to take him and essentially go on the lam. This book is weird. Now, it's weird. This one is weird, but much weirder. At first, I honestly was like, I don't know if I could read this novel because I wasn't following. I'm like, what do you mean this happened? It's so creative. Just know that it starts to make sense, and it's very creative. I loved this book. It also has a lot to say about being a parent because the main character has complicated relationships with her family members. This one's gory. It's excellent on audio, and I highly recommend it. Night Watcher by Daphne Wollstonecraft. I almost wondered if I should put this in thriller, but it's kind of a horror novel. This girl essentially survived a home invasion when she was younger, and now she works as a true crime podcaster, and she is following in her father's footsteps because he also had this true crime show for years, and she took over for him. Then she starts to wonder if she is being watched again. She's starting to feel like the person that she encountered when she was a kid is back to try and get her. This one is scary. It really plays on, I think, people's very realistic fears. The ending wasn't my favorite, so I don't give it a full 5 stars. It's 4 stars for me, but I still think it's very much worth the read. It's unsettling, creepy for this time of year, and I think it's especially good on audio. For something a little lighter, I say yes to Such Sharp Teeth by Rachel Harrison. This is a werewolf story, and it's about a woman who moves back to her small town to help her pregnant twin sister. And while she's there, she gets bitten by a werewolf and turns into one. And basically, the book follows her as she grows used to her new reality. There's also a little bit of a love story in here. It's good. It's lighter. I enjoyed it. It's campy, and it really did a good job exploring what it might be like to actually turn into a monster. Spread Me by Sarah Gailey. I have the biggest smile on my face because I loved this book. I'm still going to call it a maybe because it is very weird, but I really enjoyed it, and I think the right readers will enjoy it as well. This is about a group of researchers who are at this remote research station, and they encounter something that's other. It's a mysterious specimen, and the group leader breaks protocol and decides to bring it into the research station to study it. And then you come to find out that it is in need and in want of a human host. And things devolve from there. This one's gross, lots of body horror. But once you figure out what the haunting is going to be, it's so funny and just so gross. Also, Spread Me is definitely a double entendre, and I liked that. My microphone died. The books are closing in on me, so I need to wrap this video up, but that's okay. Hopefully you still can hear me just fine. The next horror book that I read this year is called In the Dark by Richard Lehman. And I can't say that I recommend this one, although I did have a good time reading it while I was in the middle of it. This one is about a librarian named Jane Carey. And I'll tell you why I got hooked on this, because she is in the opening scene and she sees this letter on her desk that has her name on it. The library is closed and she's like, who left this here? She's trying to figure it out. And then she runs into this guy as she's on her way upstairs to make sure there's no patrons up there. He agrees to help her to try and uncover this riddle that was within the envelope, and then they go on these series of adventures together. And their envelope is from this mysterious person called the Master of Games, and each envelope, it contains money as well as a clue. It draws her into an increasingly more dangerous scavenger hunt that tests her morality and forces her to get into more and more dangerous situations. The main character was not winning any awards for being smart in this one. And yet I still read it. The ending is weird. I didn't get it. I had to Google what exactly was going on. And so it wasn't my favorite. I don't recommend it. But like, if you've read it, I would love to connect with you because I feel like nobody I know has read this book. Another book that I do recommend, I think, maybe it's a maybe, but I really liked it. It's Black Sheep by Rachel Harrison. And this one is about Vesper, who is a woman that's estranged from her extremely religious family. And she received this wedding invitation from her former best friend, who is now marrying her ex-boyfriend. And she decides to go because they're not getting married without facing her, right? I liked this one, but while she's there, she uncovers this terrifying family secret that upends everything for her and forces her to confront her past. It's dark. I liked it a lot though. I really did. The main character is a bit of a jerk and she felt realistic. I don't know if you will like this. It's hard for me to say, but you know what? I still do recommend it. I will say I initially DNF'd it because I did not trust in the author and I didn't get her writing at that point, but I came back 2 years later and I really loved it. So do with that what you will. Next is a book that I won't shut up about. It's One Yellow Eye by Lee Radford. This one is a debut and it is fantastic. It's also a zombie story. But listen, it is about Kesta Shelley, who is a researcher, and she is studying the zombie epidemic that London went through, and they're trying to find a cure. And her husband, Tim, gets infected, and she keeps him alive by stealing supplies from the hospital that she works in. The public believes there are no more zombies, so this is a really huge secret that could ruin her life, but she is willing to do that to try and find a cure and to save her husband. This novel is a descent into madness. It's a novel of grief. It's a novel of what you wouldn't do to try and save the ones you love from a terminal disease. When I tell you the ending made me weep, I loved this book so much. 5 stars. Play Nice by Rachel Harrison. Yes, I recommend this one. I thought it was fun. Now, it is a sibling story where people are arguing a lot because you have these 3 sisters and their mother dies in the beginning of the story and leaves the home to them, essentially. They want to sell, but one of the sisters, Cleo, who is an influencer, wants to renovate it. And when they get there, they begin to question whether or not their mom's account of what was going on in the house was real. 2 sisters didn't believe her that it was possessed. They thought she was just an alcoholic, but Cleo believed her mom, and her mom left her some notes to try and figure out what's actually happening in this house. I thought the hauntings with this one were really good. The main character is, again, kind of annoying, but she's somebody that I came to enjoy reading about, and I do recommend it. We Spread by Ian Reid. No, I would say you can skip this one. This is about an elderly artist who moves into a long-term care facility, and when she gets there, she's not quite sure what's going on. She doesn't remember setting this up, but everybody says, "We've been waiting for you. We're so glad that you're here." And it follows Penny as she begins to question her surroundings. I thought it was fine. A little too ambiguous, maybe, for my taste. Mary, An Awakening of Terror by Nat Cassidy is a yes for me. This is a horror novel about Mary, who's a woman entering her 50s. She's experiencing the symptoms of perimenopause, and everyone keeps telling her that, oh, it's just perimenopause, whatever, but she knows something else is going on. She returns home to the desert to care for her ailing aunt, and things devolve from there. This one is really good. It's an exploration of being a woman and being a woman of a certain age and the care that we receive or don't receive, whether or not people believe us. There's also a little bit of a murder mystery in here that I wasn't necessarily expecting. Some good reveals and some very good horrific elements. So I do recommend it. You Should Have Left by Daniel Kelman is a yes for me. It's a short story about a screenwriter who takes his wife and daughter to a remote house in Germany to overcome his writer's block. And when he gets there, finds out that the house is really different. It's one of those stories about a weird house. I really liked this one. I understand that it was also made into a movie starring that girl from Mean Girls. What's her name? You know, the one with the eyes, Karen. I can't remember her real name in this moment, but I do recommend this one, especially if you want something that's a creepy house, unsettling, very atmospheric, and quite short. Finally, the last horror book that I've read so far this year is The Exorcist by William Peter Blatty. This one is a classic in the genre, and I really enjoyed my time. Read this one on audio. Listen, the narrator is the author of this book. He puts on an Oscar-worthy performance. It was so creepy. It was so unsettling, and I'm getting chills literally just thinking about reading this book. But I do recommend it, especially if you can handle books that are extremely sacrilege and horrific. All right, to sum, if you are maybe not the biggest horror reader and only read a few of those, these are my top recommendations. Number 3 is This Thing Between Us by Gus Moreno. I just loved this one, and I love the ending, and I just think it will mess with your head. Bad Eater and Other Names for Cora Zhang. This one made me cry. It was realistic. There was also real ghosts and real culture in this one, and I just think it's fantastic. It's also a debut. And then my number 1 recommendation is One Yellow Eye, Lee Radford, another debut. This one will definitely get you, especially if you've ever cared for someone in your life with terminal illness. I just love this book so very much. But those are my recommendations. I would love for you to tell me in the comment, what is your favorite horror book that you've read so far this year? Leave me your recommendations. I'm always taking requests for books that you want me to read. Hopefully you enjoyed this video, and don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.